Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to talk about kind of the X-Men in particular, just because I was like looking it up because I was curious about certain things. Obviously, like the next upcoming X-Men movies are the Dark Phoenix movie as well as the New Mutants movie. And the whole thing I find interesting because potentially this is the end of that continuity, because obviously this is also in the process of like the whole like Disney and Fox deal going through and stuff like that. So these will potentially be the end of that, because I was even seeing stuff being like, oh yeah, the end of this continuity and stuff like that, because obviously once Disney gets their hands on it, they're gonna cut all that continuity, because it's gonna be hard to kind of introduce all that established stuff into their own universe. Like I said, the whole multiverse thing, they could probably get away with it, but they probably want to add it in, you know, their own way. They don't want to be tied down by like all the previous stuff. They might take stuff from it and like references and certain aspects, but probably a lot of that will just be kind of cut away, because that's also the whole thing about like, you know, because what I find most interesting about all this, because like when you compare, like I'm interested in the Dark Phoenix movie, but the one I'm interested in the most is the New Mutants movie, because it's like, to me, it's like, whoa, this is like a horror X-Men movie, which is interesting to me because it's like what it reminds me of is Legion season 1, because like Legion, if you're unfamiliar, it's a great show. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a very like psychological thriller show, but I feel like season 1 in particular had a little bit more of a horror element to it, especially anytime like Farouk showed up, you know, the Shadow King, and depending on what face he's wearing in that whole situation, but that's an element I feel like wasn't as much there. Like obviously it's still a big psychological thriller aspect, but not that horror element I felt was in season 1. I didn't feel it as much in season 2. Like season 2 still fantastic regardless, but still, so just to kind of see like them potentially doing something like that in the movie is just crazy to me. And that's also something that was in the back of my mind. It's always the thing of like, now that Disney's got their hands on a lot of these properties, you probably won't ever see something like that. I don't know how many people are looking forward to that. Like I saw the trailer like months ago when it first dropped, because obviously like the movies have kind of gotten pushed back, you know, date release wise. But I guess with all the main continuity and stuff like that, Dark Phoenix is like the end be all. But like I'm curious like where New Mutants stands in the grand scheme of all that, like the timeline wise, because like obviously it almost seemed like with New Mutants you're setting up something else, but potentially it's like you're setting something else up for you to kind of cut that. I mean, that depends. Once again, that comes down to what, you know, Disney / Marvel might keep from that continuity. There might be certain, once again, I'm sure they want to probably just do a clean break, but you know, we'll see in the end. But it's probably supposed to be, I don't know how much of a standalone it's going to be. It seems like from what I've seen of it, I don't know if there's like a newer trailer out, but like I said, I saw the one like from months ago that was kind of a standalone thing, and from what I could tell from it. So I still don't really know much about what the movie is about, but it just seems so interesting. Because all that's kind of interesting too with the whole Fox situation, because it's like I said, that those potentially being the last ones. I was reading something that was basically saying like there's still potentially the whole Channing Tatum Gambit movie too, which it's obviously like a lot of directors and people have kind of come and gone from the project, so it's still up in the air whether or not that would even get made. There's also other talks. There was actually some other movies that were kind of being brought up of like, oh, that potentially could happen, but you know, now with where things stand, it's like, would that movie even happen? But once again, it's like stuff that hasn't really been set up yet. I still feel like that potentially could be a thing later on once it becomes a part of the MCU potentially. Once again, depending on how Disney and Marvel decide to like handle that whole situation, adding to their already established universe, which I mean technically they're always adding it to it with every new hero they're introducing, kind of changing the continuity of the world anyway. So it's actually kind of a little sad now. I'm sitting here thinking about the whole thing of like, oh yeah, like all these characters you've come to know are going away. I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what Logan, you know, obviously that was kind of like a goodbye of just like this continuity in that regard of like the Wolverine storyline wise and stuff like that. I mean, I guess you could also make the argument because by the time the events of Logan take place, most of the mutants are, you know, gone. So it's kind of like that was kind of a farewell in many different regards, you know, not just to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but more. And so it's just kind of interesting to me to think like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy because like this has existed for the past, going into its 19th year, this continuity, because it started back in 2000, didn't it? So it's crazy to think of after so long something like that is like coming to an end. It's not like an MCU situation of like, oh, this arc is coming to an end and we're moving on to the next arc. It's not like that. It's like this is all finite. And I guess it's kind of, you know, all this is based on comic books and stuff, and that's what happens to comic books. Like certain runs end and a new continuity begins in certain regards. So ultimately, I'd like to ask you guys, like, how do you feel about this whole situation with the whole X-Men situation, you know, not just them, there's also the mutants, you know, in general situation. You know, how do you feel about, like, you know, Dark Phoenix and New Mutants? Are you excited for both movies? Were there any other, like, X-Men or mutant properties that were coming up that you were potentially looking forward to? Because there's a whole situation of like, hey, would there have been a Deadpool 3? What about X-Force? And that whole situation, and also, like, you know, I mean, because it also plays into it too, like, oh yeah, what about Deadpool when you come to the whole, like, transitioning over to Disney? That character probably will go away, potentially, not unless it ends up getting, you know, revamped just to kind of fit Disney more, you know, so who knows? That's the thing. No one knows at this point in time, like, how this is all going to work and how it's all going to play out. At this point, it's all speculation. I would love to get to know your thoughts in the comments down below just about all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good